Welcome back to another Commander set review. My name is Scott and I am so excited for this one. So Lord of the Rings, finally, previews have finished. We've got the entire set and the flavor is just so good, so much fun involved. Of course, this set is legal from modern onwards, but pretty much it's essentially a Commander set, really. If you haven't seen one of my set reviews, I purely look at mono black. I like to see where mono black has been and possibly where it's going in the future as well, and to see where these kind of cards like land in regards to that. So there are a lot of legendary creatures to go through. So let's just start off. So first we have Golem, Obsessed Stalker. So 1 and a black, Halfling Horror, 1/1. Has Skulk, really cool. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent dealt combat damage this game by a creature named Golem, Obsessed Stalker loses life equal to the amount of life you've gained this turn. It's such a really interesting mechanic. Out of the multiple golems there are, I do like this one the most. It really allows you to have the most exploration with what you can build this around. So Skulk, which means it's mostly going to be unblockable except by 1x's. So essentially you're going to be able to hit in most cases. Now you have to have hit everyone at least once, I guess, is the goal. Whether you want to stack this with some Myriad, but then you need to somehow get rid of the fact that it's legendary. So I'm not sure how feasible like Myriad is going to be in terms of creating multiple copies of this and then attacking everyone and then just being okay with that for the rest of the game. So is this like turn 2, turn 3 you hit one opponent, turn 4 you hit the other opponent, turn 5 you hit the next opponent? I don't know, but the fact that this is a life game golem commander is so cool. And you can really hit hard when you have so much life gain in mono black. This is going to hit really hard, I think. The fact is that whatever you're doing, you want to, there's a lot of drain 1, gain 1 kind of effects, right? So the more of those you have, it's just going to double up. If you've seen any of my videos, I love a wound reflection. So this is kind of like a life gain wound reflection, which is really cool. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really cool build around. But I'm just not sure how more than just hitting my opponents each one of each of my opponents each turn is going to have this. Then Golem has to hang around and it's just a 1/1. So I don't particularly see this being a very strong deck, but a really cool build around. Okay, Golem, Patient Plotter, 1 and a black, Halfling Horrors. They're all Halfling Horrors. When it leaves the battlefield, the ring tempts you, and you can pay 1 black and sacrifice a creature, return it from the graveyard to your hand, activate it only as a sorcery, and it's a 3/1. So yeah, this is an interesting card. The ring tempts you is an interesting mechanic. I really have not figured out how many of these I want in a deck. You only need it to trigger 4 times, and then you have, I guess, the most powerful ring bearer you can have. But the fact is, your ring bearers are going to die, so you need to be tempted again to choose another ring bearer. So I haven't really landed on a number that I want to run. So does this kind of go into there in those kind of decks? It's just a 3/1 for 2. It comes back to your hand. I have to sacrifice a whole nother creature, so probably a token. So maybe in an Aristocrats deck you might want this, and this is just some incidental ring tempt you, but I have to cast it each turn. It is when it leaves the battlefield, so outside of mono black, go flickers, effects and things like that might be better, but in mono black it's not really a thing. There's a few artifacts that allow us to flicker. Yeah, ultimately I don't see it being particularly powerful or a deck that people would want to build around, but you might have this as additional ring tempt you, or just a nice little value for an Aristocrats deck, right? You can sacrifice a creature from the graveyard, which is nice. So it might be more of a 99 card. Golem, Scheming Guide, 1 and a black, Halfling Horror, 2/1. So when it attacks, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put them back in any order, then choose land or non-land. Opponent guesses the top card of your library. Then you reveal that card. If they guess right, then Golem is removed from combat. Otherwise, draw a card and Golem can't be blocked. Okay, this card is super fun. I don't think particularly that great. So tax, look at the top 2, so you get to at least see what cards are coming up. Of course, they don't have to be a land or non-land. Like they could be anything. Either of those, right? And then your opponent guesses which one it is. Now, they can probably surmise that, okay, oh, you'd be missing land drops. Maybe you would put a land on top. And then, of course, you have to play the mind game of, would I put a land on top? I want the land, but I didn't put it on top kind of thing. And if they guess right, so 50-50 chance, you know, it's removed from combat, which is not ideal, but I guess it's only a 2-1, who cares? Otherwise, it's going to draw a card. So 50% of the time, you're going to draw a card and it can't be blocked. So do you want to build like some Voltron Golem, but then half the time you're out of combat? This one's probably more of a political card where you can essentially convince your opponents to choose the incorrect one. I don't know how much is going to happen. I love the idea of the game and the riddle, and very flavorful, but it's not really that impactful. So yeah, Gore Bag of Minas Morgul, one of the black orc soldier. Whenever a goblin or orc you control deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. When you do, choose one, draw a card, create a treasure, and it's a 2/2. Yeah, again, you know, these cheap commanders are really cool. So your goblin or orc tribe has to essentially deal combat damage to a player, possible, and then you have to sacrifice it, right? So of course this is really for your orc armies, where you can sacrifice it, draw a card, and hopefully create a new orc army. But are your goblins and orcs really getting in? And if they are getting in, is draw a card or creating a treasure really worth sacrificing it? Probably not. I just don't really see this as a playable commander. I probably don't even see this, you know, even in a goblin, maybe in an orc deck, just because I guess there's not that many orcs. Sure. Mono black goblins, not really a thing. So, yeah, not really interested. Gothmog Morgul Lieutenant, 3 and a black human soldier. Gothmog Lieutenant enters the battlefield, amass orcs 1. Creature tokens you control have death touch, and 3/3. Yeah, is death touch to your tokens really that interesting? Yes, it comes in with a token, so it's creating 1 additional body. So it's 4 mana to create an additional body. Well, assuming you don't have an army already. Else it's just to give a 1/1 counter on it. Yeah, so is tokens having death touch? Yeah, I mean, mono black tokens having death touch is just a bunch of 1/1s or 2/1s, whatever. So maybe if you want to do mono black death touch tribal with a tokens thing, but that's death touch tribal's more of a green thing. Yeah, ultimately I just don't see it being too impactful. Grima Wormtongue, 2 and a black, human advisor. Your opponents can't gain life. It's a 1/4. So sacrifice another creature. Target player loses 1 life. If the sacrificed creature was legendary, amass orcs 2. Yeah, this one's really cool. So it's nice. Your opponents can't gain life. It's cool. It's on a 3 mana creature this time rather than a 4 mana creature. I guess the other one's a 2 mana creature. It's a tap ability to sacrifice. So if you can, I'm pretty sure there's no infinite way in mono black for this to untap, but I need to make the thing legendary. So I need to make my orc legendary, sacrifice it, untap it, and then sacrifice it being legendary. Like, yeah, I don't think there's an infinite with this, not in mono black. If I was in Dimir, I'd have the ley line that can make my orcs legendary, so that would work. But in mono black, I don't think so. So yeah, interesting. It's a cool little sacrifice outlet. Target player loses 1 life, and you get a token, right? So it seems cool, but ultimately low impact. Lobelia, Defender of Bag End. Why Lobelia has 2 cards, I don't know. Halfling Citizen 2/2. When Lobelia enters the battlefield, look at the top card of your opponent's library. Exile those cards face down. So sacrifice an artifact, choose one. Until end of turn, you may play a card exiled without paying its mana cost. Or each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So the second one has nothing to do with the enter the battlefield trigger. So it seems weird. So it's only an enter the battlefield trigger, so you get 3 cards. You have to sacrifice an artifact, and then you can possibly play one of those cards, right? So who knows what you're going to get off the top of your opponent's libraries. You might be big, it might just be a land, right? It's likely to be a land. So this being an enter the battlefield trigger, it's not really, you're just going to get 3 cards to possibly play. And you have to wait until next turn. You have to then sacrifice an artifact. So this one's one where you want to sacrifice an artifact. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Then try to I don't know. This just doesn't seem like as a commander that even knows what it wants to do. It's just a bit of thrown in there. Yeah, I have really liked the look at the top cards of your opponent's decks, and that's been a real running theme with mono black lately. So that's been really cool, and this kind of adds to that. But you have to sacrifice an artifact, so it's an artifact aristocrats deck. I don't know, just not interested. Lobelia Sackville Baggins, so 2 and a black. So it has Flash, Menace. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature card an opponent from an opponent's graveyard. They'll put there from the battlefield this turn, then create X treasure tokens where X is the exiled card's power. It's a 2/3. So if this is in your command zone, right? People are going to see it. You're holding out 3 mana, multiple turns for some big thing to die, and then you're going to ramp with treasures, and that's it. It's just enter the battlefield, flash, whatever, right? It doesn't do anything. It's just going to be a nice little ritual, I guess, in your command zone. But you have to make sure that a creature dies and that target is still there when this resolves. And you're holding up 3 mana, so really you need to board wipe, then exile. But these flash get something the turn that creatures die, they just don't see play. They're just really mana intensive, really difficult. So I just don't really see this even coming out of the command zone or out of your deck. Sauron the Necromancer. Oh my gosh, I love this guy. So 3 and 2 black, Avatar Horror, Menace, 4/4. When Sauron the Necromancer attacks, exile target creature card from your graveyard, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 Wraith with Menace. Beginning of the next step, exile token unless Sauron is your ring bearer. Okay, so this card just does a lot, and none of it is particularly that great. So Menace 4/4 is okay, sure. It's going to be a little bit difficult to block, but not necessarily. So it has a little bit of agents because this is on attack. So you play this on 5 mana. Then next turn you attack. Then you have to exile target creature card from your graveyard, and you get a copy, right? So you want something that has an enter the battlefield trigger, a leaves battlefield trigger. Not a die one because you may exile it, or some kind of permanent static effect or something like that. So I have really liked with my reanimators just making a whole bunch of focusing on enter the battlefield triggers, right, as my way of getting value with my reanimation effects. So that's cool. Making Sauron your ring bearer, very, very cool, right? So you need to have a whole bunch of ring tempt me to make Sauron your ring bearer. It is a 4/4, so it can be blocked by a lot of things, but then I guess it has menace, but it can be just double blocked rather easily. Ring bearers seem to work really well when they're just very, very small, like Golem. Golem would be a really cool ring bearer. So yeah, so you get to keep it if it's a ring bearer. So essentially, I think this whole deck's just you're gonna be trying to make Sauron your ring bearer and reanimating creatures. Cool, I love it. Whether it's really good, don't know. Don't think so, but so cool. Okay, Shelob Dread Weaver, 3 and a black, Spider Demon. Whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, exile it. So this is not exile instead, so they will get their death trigger. So not perfect. It's a 3/3, I guess. So 2 and a black, put a creature card exiled with Shelob into its owner's graveyard. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, on Shelob, and draw a card. So 3 mana, 2 counters, draw a card, and you're putting it back into someone's owner's library. I feel like it's a little bit expensive, but okay. And then X1 and a black, put target creature card with mana value X, exile with Shelob onto the battlefield tapped under your control. So for an extra 2 mana, you get any creature. Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? So you want your opponent's creatures to die non-token because you're going to be bringing them back, right? So they can't be tokens. 2 and a black feels just a little bit too expensive. But having just like this, there's Geth. Geth kind of has a very similar like X, just bring something back, and that's really hard sometimes. This can be an instant speed, which is kind of cool. I think Shelob's interesting. I don't think it's too powerful. It's got a cool exile effect on it. So your opponents can't get them when they really want them, and you can kind of put them in the graveyard when you want to choose. But your first effect cancels out your second effect, so you need to pick or choose. The art's really cool. I like Shelob. Witch King, Bringer of Ruin, 4 and 2 black, Wraith Noble, flying to 5/3. Whenever Witch King, Bringer of Ruin attacks, defender player sacrifices a creature with the least power among creatures they control. Maybe a ring bearer. Yeah. So it's 6 mana, flying, when it has an attack trigger, and they have to sacrifice. One person sacrifices their worst creature, which is usually the creature that you sacrifice. I mean, worst is a subjective term, but yeah, it's just so slow. 6 mana, then I've got to attack with it. I really have to give it haste. But man, does the art really rock. I can't believe what they did to my boy. Anyway, Witch King of Angmar, 3 and 2 black, Wraith Noble, so 1 cheaper. Whenever 1 or more creatures deal combat damage to you, each opponent sacrifices a creature that dealt damage to you this turn. The ring tempts you, discard a card, and you make it indestructible when you tap it, and it's a 5/3. So again, 5/3. That's really to support that red card that can kill it. Yeah, so flying. So 5 mana is a little bit better. Flying, and essentially, has a little bit of protection, I guess. They have to essentially sacrifice a creature after they've dealt damage to you, which, it's not as good as No Mercy, but could be a deterrent. And then the ring tempts you. So a little bit of incidental benefit, right? So you can now choose another ring bearer or upgrade your ring. And this being indestructible a lot, you have to discard a card. So reanimation effects, like just a cheap discard a card, nice reanimation effects can happen because of this. I think Witch King of Angmar's okay. I think it's just okay. 5/3 is not a lot. Flying doesn't really impact someone's life total a lot. I think it's more just to deter people from attacking you. And yeah, ultimately, I just don't feel them. Okay, I really struggled with some of these commanders. They're all interesting, but not very impactful. Golem Obsessed Stalker, I think, is a cool build around. Patient Plotter, you might want to put that in a deck. None of these uncommon commanders really will see any play. I think Sauron will see play just because it's Sauron. It does a lot of things, but I really need to work out how many tempt me things I need. Shelob, yeah, Shelob's really cool. I actually really dig Shelob. Is Shelob the best? Sauron? Shelob might be the best. Obsessed Stalker is decent. And the Witch King, my favorite character, is absolutely crushed. The Witch King of Angmar's probably better than, well, definitely better than Bringer of Ruin. So yeah, interesting commanders. Okay, let's go to the rares of Mythic, which is not a lot considering they're actually just all commanders in this set. Okay, Shadow of the Enemy, 3 and 3 black sorcery. Exile all creature cards from target player's graveyard. You may cast spells from among those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast them. I mean, okay, you've got a Yorg's Will on someone else's graveyard, and it's only creatures, so they have to have creatures in their graveyard. You have to want to spend mana to cast them, actual mana to cast them. So is this like so you've paid 6 mana, then they go into exile, then later turns you can then spend mana to cast those particular creatures. I don't know. No, I'm not particularly interested. Like 6 mana just seems so much. You exile all the creatures, that's kind of cool. But yeah, just way too expensive. I just don't get this one. Yeah, I really struggle with that one. Call of the Ring, 1 and a black enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, the ring tempts you. Whenever you choose a creature as your ring bearer, you may pay 2 lives. If you do, draw a card. This one I think is really, really cool. I think the tempting the ring, I just don't know how many of these I want to play, and this one kind of helps circumvent that, where I know that, okay, each upkeep I'm going to be tempted by the ring. And if I choose a new ring bearer, then I can draw a card. So 2 mana, presumably this will be as soon as possible. You'll be tempted and, you know, you'll try to draw a card. So it's going to replace itself with 2 mana. That sounds nice. 2 mana, 2 lives, sure. And now my creature is a ring bearer. Really, really cool in a Sauron deck. So yeah, I think this one's actually pretty cool. If anything, like, if, say for instance, I wasn't playing like a Lord of the Rings deck or anything like that, just having this be like maybe my only ring tempt me mechanic might just be pretty decent. This one I'm really hopeful for. I think Call of the Ring might be decent. Isildur's Fateful Strike, 2 and 2 black, a legendary instant. Destroy target creature. If its controller has more than 4 cards in hand, they exile cards from their hand equal to the difference. Yeah, 4 mana is a lot. You destroy a target creature and you might exile 1 or 2 of their worst cards. So it's like a 3-for-1, but 2 of them might just be pretty average cards, maybe. Ultimately, I think that this is pretty expensive for a removal spell. 4 mana is kind of on the edge, you know, murder. But you get to exile some cards, but it's their worst cards. I don't know. I don't think it's impactful enough. You also have to have your commander or your ring bearer or some other legendary creature, I guess, in your on the battlefield. So yeah, ultimately I think it's just not enough. 1 ring to rule them all. 2 and 2 black. The ring tempts you. Then each player mills cards equal to your ring bearer's power. Great for Sauron. Then destroy all non-legendary creatures. So that would include your ring bearer if it was originally a non-legendary. And then each opponent loses 1 life. Sorry, what I meant was your ring bearer would be excluded from that. Each opponent loses 1 life for each creature card in that player's graveyard. Yeah, 4 mana. You get to tempt. You get to mill. You know, there's the artifact one, the artifact saga that destroys on the 2nd chapter. Kind of sees played in an artifact deck. This one, yeah, it's okay. I'd definitely play it in Sauron deck. outside of that, probably not. Destroy all non-legendary creatures. Of course, in command, it's not always that great because your opponents have commanders that are legendary at least. So yeah, it's just an okay card. It's not that impactful, but it's somewhat impactful, right? You put it in your Lord of the Rings theme deck. Okay, Orcish Bowmasters, 1 in black, flash, 1/1 Orc Archer. Whenever Orcish Bowmaster enters the battlefield, or whenever an opponent draws a card, except for the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, Orcish Bowmasters deals 1 damage to any target. Then amass Orcs 1. Man, this card is... I mean, everyone knows this card's awesome. Really, really cool. I'm a bit confused because it says, except for the first one, they draw in each of their draw steps. But your draw step isn't necessarily your first card. So is it just always the draw step one? I guess. I need to see the notes on this one. So whenever your opponents draw a card that isn't their draw step card, it's going to deal 1 damage to any target. Any target. So it's just going to pick off stuff. It's just going to keep picking off stuff, right? Commander players love draw cards. I love draw cards. It's flash, it's 2 mana, it's a 1/1, so of course it dies to a lot of things, and it also makes an orc itself. So this is just like, this just goes in any deck, right? It's the Douthie Voidwalker of this set, where you just put it in. Like, there's no reason not to have this. It's just so powerful, so incidental. It's so cheap. It's just gonna catch out a few people. Someone's gonna do a brainstorm, or someone's gonna do a big draw spell of not fact or fiction. Just like an Archmage's Charm. You're just gonna hit someone for something for 2 and make an orc, and oh my gosh, it's just so... Yeah, it's just gonna be so good, so good. Orcish Bowmasters, 10 out of 10. Rapacious Guest. Yep, Rapacious, yep, sure. 2 in black, Halfling Citizen, 2/2 Menace. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a food, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever it leaves the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to its mana. Yeah, this one's okay. This one's in the Hobbit pre-con deck. So 1 or more creatures you control deal damage. So you just create 1 food per turn. You sacrifice the food. So really, it's in a food deck, and that's not going to be a mono black one. And then it's equal to its power, so someone's going to lose 5 life. So this needs to be in a counters deck, but that's not really a black thing. So I don't really think it has much of a home. I think obviously in an Abzan counters deck, I think it have a home, but not really a mono black. Ring Wraiths, 4 and 2 black Wraith Knights. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-3. If that creature is legendary, its controller loses 3 life. When the ring tempts you, return Ring Wraiths from the graveyard to your hand, and it's a 5/5. Wow, does this card just... Oh, it's so bad. I'm so upset. 6 mana for this, right? And you might kill off a cheap creature, and you might do a little bit of damage, and when it tempts you, it goes to your hand, and then you have to cast it for another 6 mana. You have to wait for your turn to cast it for another 6 mana. Oh my gosh, does this really, really suck? Why did they do that to my boys? Okay. Uncommon commons, not too much here. March of the Black Gate, 1 of the black, enters the battlefield whenever it or an army, whenever it enters the battlefield, or whenever an army you control attacks, amass 1. So you kind of get, it's not quite like a Bitter Blossom, because you get a token, and then you have to hopefully have an army that attacks. But if your army dies, then it does nothing, so not really worth it. Nazgul are really cool. 1/2 Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, ring tempts you, which is cool. Whenever it tempts you, put a +1/+1 on each wraith you control, so you have more than one. And there's quite a few wraiths in this set, and then you can have 9 of these, right? Very, very thematic. So essentially they're at least 2/3 Death Touches for 3. possibly making other races bigger. Your Sauron deck, where you're getting Wraith tokens, and your Witch Kings are Wraiths. So yeah, very cool, very thematic. You have 9 of them. I dig it. Then we have, the Haunt of the Dead Marshes, 1 mana for a 1/1. When it ends the battlefield, scry 1, and 2 in a black. You can return from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Activate only if you control a legendary creature. This one's interesting. It's so close, so close. I always love these kind of, like, when I'm looking for something that returns from the graveyard, I want it to go to the battlefield. But 3 is a bit like, I love these kind of effects, but 3's just a little bit too much. You do get the scry 1, which is kind of cool. You must have your legendary, which, in Commander is not necessarily that hard. But it's just so close, so really close. This one I'm gonna have to test with, I think, Haunt of the Dead Marshes, and just see, if that can make a slot. Mirkwood Bats, flying 2/3, for 4 mana, 3 in a black. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. Aristocrats are going to love this kind of thing. They're going to be making tokens all the time. So it's when they come in and you sacrifice them, which is essentially what you want to do in Aristocrat. So I think Mirkwood Bats is easily going to find a spot. I feel like I'm missing one. Nazgul, the Bats. Troll of Khazad-dûm's kind of cool. Swamp Cycling for 1. The commons and uncommons aren't particularly that great. I think Mirkwood Bats is probably the best one out of these. So, yeah. Okay. Colorless, very interesting. So Anduriel, Flame of the West, 3 mana, equip 2. Equipped creature gets +3/+1. Whenever equipped creature attacks, create 2 tapped white spirit tokens with flying. If it's legendary, they're attacking, tapped and attacking. Okay, you want your tokens. In an attacking, like in mono black, this is not really a thing. I mean, this is probably more of a white thing, where we want our tokens to be tapped and attacking. In mono black, I don't really want my tokens to attack. I actually just want them to sit there, block, and then I can sacrifice them. So Anduriel, not really, I think, for mono black. Glammed Ring, 2 mana, equipment. Equipped creature has first strike and gets +1/+1 for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an instant or sorcery from your hand with mana value less than or equal to the damage without paying its mana cost. Spellslinger mono black's not really a thing. You have the one from Kamigawa. That's forgetting my name. Starts with T. Can't remember. But it's not really an attacking deck. Yeah. I think this is probably more for blue-red decks, I think. Palantir of Orthanc, 3 mana, legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, put an influence counter on it, scry 2. Then target opponent may have you draw a card. If that player doesn't, mill X cards, where X is the number of influence counters on Palantir, and that player loses life equal to the total amount of value of those cards. So it's cool because it's, 3 mana, you at least get to scry 2. Then your opponent may let you draw a card. It's just 1 card, or mill X. So say they don't want you to draw a card, you're going to mill 1 card, and they may take some life. But then the next turn is going to be 2. Next turn is going to, it's pretty slow to kind of wind up. I think you need to really be able to manipulate counters, and that's probably just not a mono black thing. But I love it. It's really cool. The One Ring, 4 mana, legendary artifact, indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, you gain protection from everything till the next turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burn encounter, and then put a burn encounter and draw a card for each burn encounter. Yeah, the One Ring I think is just fantastic, right? This card is just going to be a huge staple, right? So 4 mana, you can tap it, you're going to draw 1 card and lose a life. All right. Sure, it's indestructible. You have protection from everything for a turn, whatever. So 4 mana, you get 1 card. Then the next turn, you're going to get 2 cards and lose 2 life. So that's 3 cards by, say, turn 5, right? So even if this was in comparison to Phyrexian Arena, where you play it Phyrexian Arena on 3, you draw 1 card on 4, then you draw 1 card on 5. So that's 2 cards. It's now up a card. This one on turn 5 is up 2 cards, but it's an additional 1 mana and some, well, I guess some more life, because you'd be drawing more cards, right? So I think the One Ring just is it's just really, really good, right? I think the earlier you can play this better, Soul Ring into this on turn 2, yeah, you're just going to be drawing his cards. I think fantastic. The One Ring can go in a lot of decks, Barad-dûr, legendary land, enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary, taps for black, and XX black tap to amass Orcs X, activate only if a creature died this turn. Okay, Barad-dûr, this one I've kind of been a bit, a bit confused about. I think it requires a lot. I think this will slot into an Aristocrats deck probably very easily. So it will come in tapped a number of times. But it does tap straight for black, which is really, really nice. And say 1/1 black, so, and tap this, so 4 mana to amass Orcs 1, and you have to have had Morbid, so something had to have died. I think this is just a lot of steps, but like this is better than Castle Ardenvale once you have it untapped, but then you have to have a creature die. So I think really this only fits in an Aristocrats deck, and it's really just not going to go anywhere else. But it's nice just to have a token maker on your land. Bilbo's Ring, 3 mana. Equipment, as long as your turn, equipped creature has hexproof and can't be blocked. And when a equipped creature attacks alone, you draw a card and you lose life. Equip Halfling 1 or equip 4. I mean, equip 4 is just ridiculous. You're not going to really play that in mono black. And the only mono black halfling is Lobelia, and you have two versions of that, but you don't really care about attacking in that. But it can't be blocked and it has hexproof. That's kind of cool. Sure, you play this in your Lobelia deck, I guess. Yeah, it can't be blocked in hexproof. It's nice, and that's only on your turn. Yeah, Bilbo's Ring, probably not going to see much play. Crown of Gondor, 3 mana. Equipment, it gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. Cool. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, if there is no monarch, you become the monarch. Equip 4 or 3 less if you're the monarch. Okay, so if monarch is in the game, this essentially just does +1/+1 for each creature you control. So 3 mana for each creature you control. In theory, you have 1 creature at least to equip this on. So you have to have the monarch. So it's 4 mana, but it does introduce the monarch, which is really cool. Yeah, cool card. You want to go wide, obviously, because you want creatures, which is not like going wide mono black is not typically a thing. Maybe in a zombies deck or something like that, but it introduces the monarchs. Cool. I like it, but I can't really see where it fits. Hithlane Rope, 2 mana, can't be sacrificed. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, and then you have to give it to the opponent to the right, or pay 2, tap it, draw a card, give it to the opponent to the right. So they obviously can't use it until it's their turn. It's the same cost as a Wayfarer's Bauble, but now you're giving it to your opponent. Sure, Group Hug. Not particularly interested. Because your opponents can just choose a search library, so it's not like you can give it to your opponent in a Shieldred deck, because they can just choose to get the land. So, Horn of Gondor, 3 mana. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier. And then tap 3 and tap, create X 1/1 white human soldier tokens, where X is the number of humans you control. Mono black humans not really a thing. So I just don't really see that being played. Horn of the Mark, 2 mana, legendary artifact. Whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put that into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Very, very cool. You have 3 opponents, so you can get 3 triggers, 2 or more creatures for each. It kind of lets you split up. I think, you know, in your mono black vampires, your mono black zombies, like, yeah, this is just going to be pretty easy, right? I'm just going to put this in those decks. I think it's better in vampires than in zombies, but yeah, I'm happy to attack my opponents with 2 creatures, sure. Yeah, aristocrats, like, you're not really going to play that, but it's probably more for tribes. Really cool. I like it. Lothlorien Blade, 3 mana. Whenever quick creature attacks, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature defending player controls. Equipped Elf 2 or equipped 5. I mean, you might play this in your Elf deck. In your Elf attacking deck. Mono black elves, like, it's a bit of memey, but it can be done. So yeah, it's a bit of removal, but it's 5 mana. But it does do it on attack. Yeah, not particularly interested. Mithril Coat, 3 mana, flash, indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target legendary creature you control. It has indestructible and it's equipped 3. So yeah, so 3 mana, you just give your commander, your ring bearer, indestructible. I kind of dig it. Yeah, I kind of dig it. In a, you know, in that kind of Voltron deck, as a kind of gotcha. Yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of exile effects, obviously, so it's not going to hit everything, but I like it. Model of Unity, 3 mana. Whenever players finish voting, you and each opponent who voted for a choice you voted for may scry 2, add 1 mana of any card. Very cool card, just not a mono black card. We don't really do a lot of voting, and the voting cards are not particularly that great. So not really something you're going to play, but very cool. A Vial of Galadriel. If you would draw a card while you have no cards in your hand, draw 2 cards instead. If you gain life while you have 5 or less life, you gain twice that much life instead, and add a mana. Yeah, it's a mana rock. The second line, probably not too relevant. We already have a black enchantment that has something similar, and you just never trigger it. So if you would draw a card while you have no cards in your hand, draw 2 cards. This could be cool in like a discard deck where you're often discarding your own cards. Tiny Bones kind of comes to mind, but then you're drawing off Tiny Bones. So you need a lot of instants. Yeah, I don't know. Just doesn't. It's not really impactful. Sting the Glinting Dagger, 2 mana. Quick creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. At the beginning of each combat, untap equipped creature. Equipped creature has first strike as long as it's blocking, all blocked by a goblin or orc, and it's equipped 2. So it's 2 mana, 2 to equip, +1/+1 and haste. That's kind of okay. And at the beginning of each combat, untap equipped creature. So really, you want something that has a tap ability, but wants to attack as well and has haste. Yeah, the third lineup, you know, it's just flavor. But I need a tap creature that I want to also then attack, which is not really a mono black thing. So yeah, I don't really know where that will go, but it seems cheap enough. The Black Gate. So it's a gate. It enters the battlefield. You may pay 3 life if you don't enter the battlefield tapped. Alright, taps for black. And then 1 and a black tap. Choose a player with the most life or tied for the most life. Target creature can't be blocked by creatures that player controls this turn. Yeah, this one's interesting. So it can come in untapped. You know, it's only 3 life. So, you know, Agadeem's Awakening kind of style. It taps for black, which is nice. And essentially it makes one of your creatures unblockable to the person with the highest life. Or tied to the highest life. If you are the player with the highest life, then it's doing nothing. So, yeah. Is 3 mana to make something unblockable sometimes that great? Probably not. Like, if this was any other color, it would just be a free roll. Who cares? but Swamp is really a powerful card, right? I love Swamp. It's really powerful. It works with so many other cards. So am I taking a Swamp out for this? Maybe not. If I really want to get in a Voltron deck, maybe. But then I'm always taking the person with the highest life. Yeah. It's some kind of Voltron, maybe Rankle Master of Pranks, maybe. Yeah. Blackgate's cool card. And then these uncommons, not really too interesting. Mirror of Galadriel's a little, so it's 2 mana, scry 1, then draw a card. So essentially it's opt for 5 mana, but it costs 1 less for each legendary creature you control. So I'd be really interested in mono black legendaries, what that might look like. So you can make this essentially free, but you need 5 creatures, 5 legendary creatures, and then you're getting an opt. You'd have to do 2 turns worth of ops to even probably be of value, and have 5 creatures all times. Probably not. Stone of Erek, 1 mana. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So nice graveyard hate. And then you can sacrifice it for 2 and exile target player's graveyard, draw a card. Yeah, it's kind of okay. You can get it off Urza's Cycle, which is cool. Grey Havens, enters the battle for scry 1 and taps for colorless. And then add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures in your graveyard. So you might want to put it like in a reanimated deck where there's actually quite a lot of legendary reanimation targets. So yeah, it's kind of okay. I think it'll be colorless for most of the game and then not. So yeah, cool. Great Hall of Citadel. So colorless or 2 mana to cast legendary spells. Yeah, cool. It's decent. Lemnis Bread's cool. Scry 1. So you 2 mana. Scry 1. You opt, and then it's a food. But yeah. Colorless. So I guess in terms of colorless, the One Ring's going to be really good. People will try Barad-dûr, but probably will be upset. Horn of the Mark will be really good. Mithril Coat will be kind of cool. Blackgate, it might see a little bit of play. Yeah. And then, yeah, uncommons, Mirkwood Bat, maybe Haunt of the Dead Marshes. Nazguls will find play. Yeah, uncommons and commons not so much. And then I think yeah, rares. Call of the Ring, I think people will like. I think, like I said, just having a ring Tempshu as my only ring Tempshu, I think that's still going to be good. Other than that, or Orcish Bowmasters, absolutely fantastic. And then commanders, a bit disappointed. Golem, Obsessed Stalkers, I think the best Golem. And I think Shelob and Sauron. Well, I think Shelob's okay. Sauron is going to be thematic and popular. I think Sauron will be the most popular just purely on thematics. I think Witch King of Angmar is better than the other Witch King. Yeah. Overall, love the set. I love seeing Sauron, love seeing the Witch King, love seeing Shelob. I wish the Witch King was so much better than this. But you can't have everything. So yeah, I will have to try my best to not build all of these. I think maybe I'll build like 4 of these commanders to give it a go. But yeah, we'll see. So that's my set review. I actually love this set. I'm going to draft a lot of this set. I'm really, really pumped. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching.